Welcome to Concho Valley Crossover. We are live. It is Wednesday, November 13th. Beautiful day here at Sunset Stadium. That is Jaden Hart. I am Matt Locke. We are live on Concho Valley Crossover Facebook page. We are live on KLST News Facebook page. We are live on KSAN News Facebook page. And are we also live on ConchoValleyHomepage.com? We are also live on ConchoValleyHomepage.com.
Gotta get the confirmation.
4 different options to stream us, to tune in, to give us your insight. Today we're going to go through the Dave Campbell's Texas football brackets for the UIL.
It's the UIL's brackets.
That's
and
true.
what
The
Dave
UIL's
Campbell's
brackets, we're going to
provided.
go through kind of our predictions for some of the brackets and kind of compare to the so-called experts as our rant went on last time we were on here about Dave Campbell's. And what bracket do we got? 2 brackets. We've got...
I think we'll start with 6A.
We'll start with 6A. So we've got 2 brackets to take a look at. We've got 6A Division 1. We've got Class 1A Division 1. 2 brackets that we'll take a look at. We'll start off in Class 6A Division 1.
I think what we should do, I mean, Central is in Region 1,
Yes.
which we are going to probably focus a majority of our time with this bracket on what we kind of think will happen in Region 1 based on research that we've done. By no means, this is the disclaimer where I think that, you know, people are trying their best to predict how these matchups will be. And what we're doing is we're going off of our own research. We obviously haven't seen all of these teams play, just a handful of them, or maybe not even a handful, just based on what we kind of have put together. So
Right.
We'll go with Region 1, and maybe we'll take a look at maybe our regional finals out of like Region 2,
Yeah.
Region 3, and Region 4, and then we'll jump to 3A. But we'll start with Region 1. The first matchup, El Paso Montwood taking on Midland Lee. And Midland Lee is coming off a chance where they had to win the district title last week at Permian. Obviously a big rivalry game. Everyone knows about that from Friday Night Lights, and just kind of if you're a West Texas high school football fan, you know the stakes of that game.
Yep.
And we saw Midland Lee lose to Permian by 3 points, which put them in the technically 2 seed coming out of 6-2A. So El Paso Montwood, not a bad football team. They've put together an okay season, and as far as knowing a lot about them, I'm kind of in the dark. From what I was able to research, though, I've got Midland Lee moving on. I think they're just too impressive this season. So what they've done this season.
Yeah, Montwood and Midland Lee actually played each other this season in Week 3. And yes, El Paso is a good team. 7-3 on the year, second in District 1. However, that game against Midland Lee did not fare well for them. Final score of that one, granted it was September 13th, but still, final score of that one was 72-7.
Yeah.
I don't see, even if that was a Week 3 and El Paso Montwood is better, I don't see any way that you were going to erase a 72-7 deficit. There we go. If I can speak English. Deficit to come back and pull off an upset. I think it's Midland Lee fairly easily.
It's their game to lose, no doubt.
Easily.
I think that they're going to be more motivated to coming off a loss against a rival, and you know they've had really put together a good string of wins this season. They were undefeated. I just think that this is Midland Lee's game to lose. Then one out of Central's district, their district champion, Euless Trinity, is the 1 seed, and they are taking on Arlington Lamar, who has obviously been competitive. That district as a whole was competitive between Bowie, Martin, and just Arlington, the Colts.
Yep.
And they kind of all round robin beat each other in a way, except for Martin, who we'll get to. But that matchup, 2 ranked teams according to Dave Campbell's computers. Matt, who are you taking?
I have Lamar winning this one, only because I really think that their district, they're tested better. I think despite having the same record as Euless Trinity, I think they're coming out of a much tougher district in really the heart of the Metroplex. The Arlington teams, I think Central's district is tough, but I don't see Euless's competition in the Metroplex, Weatherford, LD Bell, Haltom, anywhere near on the same level as Martin, Bowie, Arlington. I say Lamar gets the win just because I think there's a more battle-tested team out in the Metroplex.
Yeah, no. So I really agree with your point there. The fact of the matter is how we started this off with the idea that this Arlington district, they really put through a grueling schedule, and that could also. The thing about playoffs, and it's a pretty no-kidding kind of comment, is, I mean, these teams are good for a reason to be in the playoffs. You're looking at 1, 2, 3 loss most of the time at the most teams. I mean, they're in there for a reason. And Euless Trinity, no doubt, was a threat in Central's district. We saw what they did to the Bobcats. It wasn't nearly as bad as it was last year. And surprisingly, Haltom beats them, and I think that was more of maybe just the idea that Haltom just kind of caught Trinity at the right time, and it was they schemed well, and it's one of those ideas that any given game you can beat a team. But in this case, I do think that it is going to be Arlington Lamar that comes out with this win. I was trying to find it because they did have – I thought Trinity had one impressive win. And I was another team, and it goes to show you the amount. There's 704 playoff teams, and we've been trying to go through all of these and try to compile what we think is going to happen, and it's just you start mixing stuff. But I'm with Matt. We both have Lamar moving on to play Lee in the second round. Okay, so then you have South Lake Carroll against Louisville. I'm going with South Lake Carroll.
Yeah, I don't know much about Louisville. Anything about Louisville. I couldn't even tell you where in the state of Texas Louisville is. I know enough about South Lake Carroll to know that they are a darn good football team.
Very traditional, good football team.
Traditional Texas powerhouse. I think it's South Lake Carroll fairly easily. And one cool thing about us streaming on Facebook is there's an opportunity for you to drop comments, drop messages. If you disagree with anything we're saying, agree with anything you're saying, join the conversation, send a message down there in the Facebook chat. We'd love to interact with you and get your takes on some Class 6A Division I football predictions. We're coming up on the Central games. So we'll get there here in a second.
Just one thing quickly about Carroll. The reason that I think that they're impressive, if you're just basing off of who they've kind of played, Keller is a playoff team. Keller is, we'll get to them later. I believe they're in the second region. Or no, they're in Region 1, excuse me. See? And then they beat Denton Geyer, who is a ranked team in the state of Texas in 6A. So
Louisville Farmers, my goodness.
Yeah, it's South Lake Carroll's undefeated. Look, they're going to win. It would be surprising if they lose this game. Yeah. So that matchup, the pairing with Carroll, could be interesting, but it's DeSoto against Skyline, and in order for it to be the interesting matchup, DeSoto would have to win, and I'm going with DeSoto. I think DeSoto is going to be that next round is going to be something else.
Yeah, I have DeSoto winning that one too. Again, two schools that I'll be honest, I don't know much about. I mean, they lost the district title game to Cedar Hill by 1 point. So they're obviously
Cedar Hill's good.
And their other district loss was Mansfield Summit, the third place team, and they also lost by 1 point.
They beat Dallas Jesuit. Dallas Jesuit's an okay team. Really, that's their signature win, though, is over Dallas Jesuit. And then you have that Cedar Hill loss, but Cedar Hill is a team that is considered one of the top in the state of Texas. And you lose a game, 1 point, it's a matter of something, a turnover or a possession that just didn't go your way.
Yeah, this was just kind of a game that, we didn't really know much about, so you just kind of look at records and who they played, and it was almost kind of a coin flip, and I think both of us thought DeSoto was just the stronger team based on what we saw on paper comparing matchups.
El Paso Franklin versus the Odessa Permian Panthers. I have Permian, and my reason being is I think Permian kind of started the season slow. They actually are considered the 1 seed out of District 2 6A because, like I said, to start off, they beat Lee. And the thing is, El Paso in the past, these El Paso Franklins, Montwoods, they typically, 6-2A has been able to get past them in the first round because the level of competition just is not the same. This year, however, I do think that Franklin is a good team basing off of what Central's head coach Brent Davis has said and just looking at some other things. But I do think that Permian is still better. and they're playing at Ratliff Stadium. That's a home field advantage, no doubt. So I've got Permian advancing.
I actually have the opposite. I have Franklin advancing in this one. My reasoning, obviously, it's a similar situation of the Midland Lee situation. Permian and El Paso Franklin played each other early in the season. Mm-hmm. In Permian, El Paso Franklin got the win 49-28.
Yep.
Typically, we have seen Odessa Permian teams fare well against El Paso teams in the first round. I think this is one where El Paso Franklin has kind of emerged, and it's a similar situation. It's going to be tough for them to erase a 21-point deficit. Can they make it closer? Maybe, but I still think Franklin will get the best of them.
One thing I will say about Permian, and we're going to try to start speeding this up so that we can get through all of this, but Permian has been weird in the playoffs where when they do really well in the regular season, they typically don't make as far of runs, and it could just be based on matchups. But, they're the 1 seed, so, technically their regular season went well. But when you kind of think that Permian is out of it, they have better playoff. More recently, it's been where they'll have better playoff runs. So who knows with Permian? We could potentially see that matchup of a Permian versus Central, because the pairing would be the Bobcats against the 10th ranked Arlington Martin Warriors. Not a favorable matchup, no doubt, for Central, but just a preface, because this is our game, or one of our teams. I think the thing that, based on kind of just doing a little bit of looking into, Martin is a tough team, no doubt. They're 10th, and they're ranked for a reason, because they've been able to score, and it's not one guy in particular doing their scoring, but on defense and special teams, they've been able to get points. I think they've got a total of 99 total points just on the defensive and special teams side, which, if you're adding points that way, you're going to be a much harder team to beat. Central hasn't traveled well this year, other than last week when they get a situation where you control your own destiny, and they took care of business. The second half was definitely the better half for them. They came out, played a little rocky, and they came back and won that game. So I don't know what to expect out of Central. I think Central, firing on all cylinders, they can compete with Arlington Martin and make it a game. If they come out and start slow, then it could get ugly. I've got Arlington Martin solely based on the fact that they are a good football team. They're the better football team of this game. But I'm not going to put it past the Bobcats to maybe go up there and create some noise and play them close. And, hey, it comes down to a final possession or two, and who knows? Maybe that's the upset of the round.
I'm a bit more of a Debbie Downer when it comes to this matchup. Despite them being a local team, I don't see any way the Central gets this win.
Yeah, no,
I think Arlington Martin is among the best of the Metroplex.
They're the best in the state of Texas.
Yeah, Central hasn't competed well with middle of the pack, or they've competed with middle of the pack, but it's been close battles with middle of the pack in the Metroplex.
And they're getting home field advantage, and it's like I said, Central hasn't
traveling all the way out there. I think at best, Central can maybe scare them to that this is maybe a 2-possession game by the end. But I don't see this. It's going to take a lot for Central to make this a game.
Yeah,
I think Arlington Martin is just too strong for what Central is.
If we were putting on odds, if I were an odds maker, I would probably have this at about a 17 point, more than 2 possessions, just because of the danger factor that Central provides. But I just think, like I said, it is not anything against the Bobcats. I think they've had a good season. That they started off a little shaky, and I think that being the young team that they are, next season is going to be a year where we could see them in a new district as well.
Yeah,
and
they get away from
it. Could be a
Arlington team.
Really fun year for Central, but I just think that this first round matchup, you get paired against a team that people are I mean, people have them giving Duncanville, who's the number 1 team in the state of Texas, a run for their money. And Duncanville's hungry, obviously, losing on a final play last season. It's been kind of a revenge tour for them. And, I just think that it's not going to be Central's game. It sucks to say that.
But the beauty of the predictions,
we could be very
prove us wrong. Shut us up.
Yep. Keller versus Flower Mound. I got Keller.
I've got Flower Mound.
And I got Keller because the only reason I think Abilene Cooper, even being a 5A, they played Abilene Cooper, lost by a point, and played them really. This one really is a coin flip. A lot of people think it could go either way. I'm giving Keller the benefit of the doubt, even though they got blown out by Carroll and Geyer. And I know that was considered a good win for Carroll, or Denton Geyer as well for Carroll, and those were the 2 teams that in their district were going to give them a run for their money, no doubt, and they did not compete very well against them. But I still think Keller is going to pull away with it. And then the final one, the number 1 team in the state of Texas against South Grand Prairie.
I think that's an easy one. Duncanville gets the win.
Duncanville, again, revenge tour.
Easy one there.
Okay, so then we would move on to our next part in that region. Lee versus Lamar, Carroll versus DeSoto, Permian versus Martin, and Keller versus Duncanville. Just we can go, and I've got Lee upsetting Lamar. I have Carroll beating DeSoto.
Yep.
Martin beating Permian.
Yep.
And Duncanville beating Keller.
Yep. I have the same, other than I have Lamar beating Midland Lee.
So that would set up for me, Lee versus Carroll, Martin versus Duncanville in the regional semifinals. I have Carroll beating Lee and facing Duncanville in the regional final.
Yep, I have Southlake Carroll moving on, getting the win over Lamar. Duncanville cruises over Martin.
And then we both
up Southlake Carroll and Duncanville getting the win there to advance to the state semis.
And then as far as the other regions, we said we'd just give those out really quick. Region 2, I have the semifinal the final being Allen versus Spring, and I have Allen advancing. In Region 3, I have Katy against Atas. I always have struggle with this one. Humble Atasita, or what is it? Say it, because I can't.
Where?
Atasita.
Oh.
I should be able to do this. I'm a broadcaster.
I don't know.
Atasocita.
I'm not even going to try that.
I have Katy coming out of that region. And then in Region 4, Lake Travis versus Converse Judson. And I have Converse Judson beating Lake Travis. They're banged up, and I think Converse will get the best of them. What about you?
I've got, in Region 2, I've got Allen beating Cy Woods, and then setting up an Allen and Duncanville state semis. On the other side, I have North Shore moving on. I didn't really
Katy
complete.
North Shore. That's going to be a game.
Yeah, the Katy North Shore regional semis is going to be a great game. I have North Shore getting that and cruising to the state semis. I also have Lake Travis cruising to the state semis as well. I think if they meet up with Converse Judson, that would be the hardest one, but I really think Lake Travis is going to cruise out of that region. So I have a Duncanville against Allen state semi on one end, and then a North Shore and Lake Travis on the other end.
Okay.
So, I mean, really four traditional Texas powerhouses as far as high school football.
But go ahead. I've got Katy winning the state championship. I think that they will play Duncanville in the state championship game, and they will win.
I've got a Duncan North Shore rematch. Duncanville getting the win this year.
That would be something. As far as a fan standpoint, that's what we want. Maybe just really quick, or just a few games if you're a fan of 6A football in the state of Texas, to keep an eye on across the state. I would recommend this Katy Tompkins, Fort Bend Travis. They're both really good teams, and it kind of sucks that their first round matchup is paired against each other. Some other ones that we had kind of highlighted was that Keller Flower Mound game, because it is going to be just kind of a coin flip. You really don't know. Mesquite and Shoemaker could be a game that it could go either way. I think that Shoemaker was underestimated, and then we got to see how they played Central, and Central kind of got not caught off guard, but they handed it to Central.
Their athleticism kind of proved to be too much for Central.
Yeah, and that's a big one. And then I can't remember. There was one more, but Let's get on to the 3A bracket because I want to spend some time on that as well. Region 1 is where we find our Wall Hawks, number 1 team in the state of Texas, according to Dave Campbell's computer. Matt and I are fighting the computer this year. We're going to try to fight it, have better predictions than it. First game in Region 1 is between a 9-1 Denver City team and Amarillo River Road, who I believe is 6-4 or 5-5, one of the two. So you're looking at a middle of the tier. I've got Denver City advancing.
I'll be honest, I grabbed the wrong bracket whenever we left.
That's fine.
I have my 1A bracket, so I'm going to pull up 3A Division 1 here.
Yeah, you're good.
All right, Denver City. I'll be honest, I don't know much about these teams. I'll let you lead the way.
It's fine. I didn't. 6-man or 6A is not necessarily my strongest suit, other than our district.
Some of them I'll be able to chime in. Like the next one we got. This one I don't know anything about. I guess I know Amarillo River Road. I don't know Denver City.
Denver City's 9-1 though, and I don't know. Denver City's district is not good, but I don't necessarily think that Amarillo River Road is going to. They're not that good of a team.
But I'll take Denver City.
There you go.
Let's do that.
They're going to be paired up with this game. This is a game of the week in the state of Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Brock versus Clyde. Clyde out of Wall's district put up a fight kind of at the beginning of the game, and then Wall ended up beating them 35-0. But Clyde is not a team to overlook by any stretch of the mind. Right. They beat Jim Ned, who I thought was still the second best team in that district. Still think if a quarterback doesn't get hurt, then they are. I've got Brock beating Clyde just solely because Brock in the past has been Wall's kryptonite. It has nothing to do with that reasoning, but they aren't viewed as a strong team as they've been in the past. But they played Brownwood in 4A, who is a very good team, and only lost by 10 points. And their other loss of the season came against Point Pilot, who's a good football team as well.
Yeah, I have Brock winning that one. Obviously, Clyde is a good team. One of 3 or 4 teams coming out of that district that are solid. But I there's something about Brock that I just have a funny feeling that if Wall makes a deep run, they're going to end up seeing Brock at some point because it always happens. And to do that, Brock's going to have to get the win over Clyde. I say Brock wins.
Yeah. Next game, Bushland and Tornillo, excuse me. Bushland will win without a doubt.
Yep.
It sets up a matchup with either Eastland or Whitesboro.
Oh, goodness, I keep yawning.
Whitesboro played in a district with Brock, Boyd, and Point Pilot. Mm-hmm. But I think Eastland, if their quarterback, Morton, stays healthy, we found out he's going to be playing both sides of the ball this week, playing a little safety.
Yep.
But I do think that that will be another game to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
I think Eastland will win.
Yeah, I have Eastland. I have setting up a Bushland Eastland area round matchup. I see both Bushland and Eastland kind of cruising to their wins a little bit.
Wall versus Boyd. I think the Hawks aren't there. Well, we know the Hawks aren't 100%, but I still think the Hawks are one of the best teams in the state of Texas in 3A. Mm-hmm. They'll beat Boyd, and that would set up a matchup with Shallow Water or Kermit, and I have Shallow Water.
Yeah, I have Shallow Water winning that. Obviously, I have Wall beating Boyd. I think that Wall Boyd is gonna be a tougher matchup than fans think.
Yes,
I think that game is gonna be closer. I don't think this is gonna be a typical district champion steamrolls the lower seed. I think this is gonna be a tough matchup, especially with the injuries that Wall has. But I still think they get the win, and I agree. I think they take on Shallow Water in the next round.
The thing with Boyd, because this is our team, and I think we do need to discuss what kind of this matchup entails for the Hawks. Boyd is a run-first team offensively. You know, with Wall's defense being as dominant as it is, it's banged up. Mm-hmm. But I think they're going to shut down the run. And Boyd's their strong suit is their defense.
Yep.
And that's where Matt is making the point of why this could be a close matchup for the Hawks because we've got offensive injuries for the Hawks.
And I think you look at the way that the Hawks have played this year, even when they're fully healthy. I think they're better than looking up some of their games against their tough opponents.
Mason. Not Sonora. Mason, Cisco. Cisco's a top team in 3A Division 2. People think Cisco can make a far run.
Where is it? There was one game in particular I was looking at. Here we go. Like, I think Wall is better than a one-possession win against Cisco. I think Wall is a better team than a one-possession win against Jim Ned.
Score doesn't do necessarily the Hawks the biggest justice.
The style of the way they play, where they're going to rely on not allowing your defense to they're going to make sure that you don't score, and their offense is going to do enough that they get the win.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
And I think the way their scores, 28-14 over Eastland, 14-7 over Jim Ned, I think they're head and shoulders above those teams more so than 1 and 2 possession games. And that's why I think that this is going to be a tough matchup, because they run the ball. Wall does a great job at stopping the run. Their offense is going to be a little bit slower only because they have players out. They have their running backs out. Mason Fuchs is still out at quarterback. So because of that, this is going to be a 14-7, 28-14 type of game where Wall is clearly the better team, but the scoreboard's not going to show that at the end of the game. If you just look at the score, you're going to see, oh my gosh, these two teams match up really well.
Well, it's the bad part about it is in
Wall
Region 1.
Wall is just going to grind you out.
Yes, and in Region 1, you have District 3-3A and District 4-3A being the teams that get paired against each other, and those are the two best districts in this region. That's the Brock District, the Point Pilot District, which you look down the road and you think Wall could potentially end up playing them, and that's a scary game. But their quarterback is banged up, is what I found out today. So, that doesn't necessarily make it as big of a threat. Just finishing up Region 1, Point Pilot against Jim Ned. I think Coach Guy we were talking about that today, and since he was the one that told me Point Pilot's quarterback is banged up, and Jim Ned, I've been high on them all year. I still don't think I think that their quarterback getting injured, and he could be back. I think Jim Ned is going to beat Point Pilot, and that would set them up for a Slayton over. I think Slayton will beat Brownfield.
Yep.
And then going, just kind of getting through it.
We have 2 minutes left.
Okay.
So what I want to do to end it, looking at 3A Division 1, how likely, when Wall gets 100%, to wrap this all up, how likely do we see Wall lifting the state championship at the end of the season?
I think their biggest threat their real first test will be in the regional semis, because I mentioned Point Pilot and Jim Ned. The winner of that game, I think, matches up with Wall in the regional semis. And then, of course, Brock. I've got Brock making it to the regionals. But I think that Wall's better than Brock, obviously, this year. I think as you said, a fully healthy Wall Hawk team, size-wise, which we've talked about multiple times, I think that they match. They're going to get out of Region 1. The part that scares me for the Hawks is if you look at who they could potentially match up with in the state semis, it's either Malakoff or Gladewater, potentially, who is getting healthy, and they are clicking, and they're hot of late, and that is going to be tough. And then but really realistically, I've got a Wall versus Grandview state championship game, and I think that Wall, and it's going to sound biased because I have Wall winning the state championship, but I really truly believe that a fully healthy Wall Hawks team is the best in 3A Division 1. I don't see anyone beating them. Yeah. I don't.
I see tough matchups. I see good matchups as far as the way they stack up, but I think Wall. I agree. I think Wall is the best team overall in 3A. It'll just be, can they get the right matchups?
Yeah, and I mean, just looking, I know we're trying to get done. Region 3 and Region 4. Region 4 is a joke as far as some of the teams that are in it. I mean, it's Hallettsville could end up coming out of it. Columbus could end up coming out of it. You've got George West, who's the only computer-ranked team out of that region. And then in 3, it's really Region 1 and Region 3 where I think the two state champion teams are going to come from. Or the state championship game. with Grandview, Troy, Diboll, even Whitney, who beat the defending state champs. Yeah. So, yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm excited for all of this.
Playoffs all begin Thursday night. We've got a bunch of teams going on Thursday. We got even more games going on Friday. We'll keep you updated on all of that. If you want to hear from Houston Guy, head coach of the Wall Hawks, tune into KSAN and KLST News at 6 and 10. We'll hear from him. We got a chance to go out and talk to him earlier today. That's all the time we've got for CV Crossover. We'll be back here again on Friday, now that we are a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday show. We'll be back and to kind of wrap up what happened on Thursday and maybe preview some of the Friday games.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun to get into to six-man Division 1, especially our region, Region 2. Whew.
Yeah, it'll be good. Whew. For Jaden Hart, I'm Matt Locke. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back here Friday, same time, same place. Have a good rest of the week.